Well, hello there. I'm trying to figure out how to start this because if you're watching this, this is actually my first video um on this channel. And to be honest, I'm kind of trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing, but my name is Olivia and or you could say Livy, Olivia or Livy, and I am a San Francisco Bay Area based tarot reader. I have been reading tarot since about 2015, I would say. And today, I kind of wanted to start this channel by, doing well, it's a hashtag, but it's also, I believe it's called a VR to Jonaki at Catomancy Tarot, who started Tarot Origins. I believe it's for her thesis. And this has been around a while, by the way. It's been around. I've seen it around, but I kind of just felt like finally doing a video response for it. I did actually do, what was it? It was like a Google form that Jonaki also had. And I did send that. I have no clue now what I replied to it. So I'm doing this instead. And yeah, let me try to get right into the questions. The first one is, what kind of religious upbringing did you have? Well, I grew up in a Portuguese, so that's why I have this little rooster de Barcelos. I grew up in a Portuguese Roman Catholic, also why I have this household growing up. And to be honest, I'm not a practicing Catholic anymore, but at one point in time I was. My partner is still religious, hence why we even have this. My camera is not zooming in on this very well, but yeah, my partner has that. He's still more, he practices. And this is a little rooster de Barcelos. If you know anybody who's Portuguese, we all have one of these in our household. They're a symbol of good luck. There's a lot I could say with that, but that could be a whole video in of itself. But yeah, I grew up Portuguese Roman Catholic, and I make that distinction because I feel like for people who've grown up Catholic, there's different ways that it presents based on how your culture kind of ties into it. And so for me, it was Portuguese Roman Catholic, which meant that, well, even more further than that is Azorian Portuguese Catholic. So that even is more different, where Portuguese Roman Catholic, they kind of worship more of what we call the Holy Spirit. So there's a lot of iconography of like the dove, and we have what we call the Holy Ghost festas, and there's a lot of stuff with that. So it's tied into the culture, and I grew up with that, and I did enjoy it as a child, but the reason why I don't practice that anymore is because at one point in time when I was in high school, I was a youth group leader. After I was kind of forced to be what's the word? Confirmed. There we go. I was trying to remember what the word was. I was, after being forced to be confirmed in the Catholic Church at 14. For a while, I thought, oh, I like this. I like the spirituality aspect of it, mainly because there were some things like we were taught in the Bible that I remember being like, do I believe that? I don't I don't think so. But back then I at least like the spirituality aspect of it. But the reason why I stopped, sorry, I'm going in circles here. The reason why I stopped was because while being a youth group leader, I found that a lot of the people I was working with, they were also my age, around my age, in high school. But a lot of the people I was working with, what's a nice, no, you know what? There's no nice way of saying it. There's no nice way of saying it. They were kind of two-faced, to be honest. Like, they would be going on and on about things like, keeping purity culture, being like kind, a good Samaritan, and all these kind of things, but they weren't actually those things. Like, it was very hypocritical. Very hypocritical. And there became a point where I got frustrated because there was also, a lot of them weren't very kind to me either. I didn't know this at the time, but I found out later in life that I am autistic. And because I didn't know, though, when I was a teenager, the way that it presented put a lot of people off, because I had a lot of issues with social anxiety. I had a lot of issues with like eye contact with other people, and it apparently made them uncomfortable. So they basically ostracized me. And so I said, no more to this. And after my senior year of high school, I just completely stopped. I stopped being religious. I stopped being involved in the Catholic Church, and I stepped away from basically all of them. I have now my best friend, and some actually also good friends, were a part of that church too, but I didn't really know them or interact with them as much during that time. So I'm still in contact with them, but the others I kind of just pieced out and stopped being involved. So for that reason, it put a bad stain in my mouth towards organized religion, and I just don't do that anymore. And so that kind of follows into the next question of number two says, what was your first exposure to tarot, and how did you get your first deck? So for me, my first, I don't know, this is actually hard to say. I don't really know what the first exposure to tarot was per se, but the first time that I started noticing tarot imagery was when I went off to college. Now, I think before that, there's a couple movies even that come to mind. Like, recently I rewatched, what was it? Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows, I believe. There's a scene where one of the characters in there is doing tarot. And so movies like that, I had seen tarot decks. Even like every time there was like witch movies, I would see tarot decks. And somebody doing a reading, and usually they're a psychic, and they can talk to ghosts and things like that. So I guess even before that, yeah, I had exposure to tarot, but actually seeing physical decks in person wasn't really until I went off to college. There was this store across the street from my university that actually had a couple of decks in it. They had the original Rider-Waite-Smith. It had a Thoth-based deck, and I think it had, oh shoot, I don't remember what it's called. It's the Hermetic one, the imagery on that one. They were all at the store. And at that time, I started getting interested in it because they also showed those little keychains that might have it's an image of the emperor, or it's an image of the hermit card or something like that. And it started getting me interested in tarot. But I'll admit, I was kind of snobby. I did not like the artwork at all. And to this day, I don't actually really like the original Rider-Waite-Smith artwork. I don't own an original Rider-Waite-Smith deck because during that time, I was getting interested in the idea of tarot. But I decided, I don't like the images on this deck, but let me start learning how to read tarot. So I actually started reading online, like all the different meanings of each of the cards. And it had a lot of the, Rider-Waite-Smith, the original imagery on it. It would say what the card meaning was, and I was learning that way. But then, I decided that I eventually wanted my own deck. But to be honest, in 2000, when I was starting to think about, like, I want my own deck, it was around 2013, maybe 2014. And there weren't a lot of options that appealed to me. There was, what was it called? The ones I mentioned, and then there was also The Wild Unknown. The Wild Unknown had come out. It had exploded, right? Like, everyone was, like, really into that. And I wasn't about the images. I didn't like them. So I didn't, and I don't own that deck for that reason. It was just too limited color palette for me. So I was like, dang, I don't know what kind of deck I would get, if I was going to start reading tarot. And so I was being picky, basically. But then, an author I really liked at the time was writing a book series called The Raven Cycles. So this was by Maggie Stiefvater. And when I was reading that book series, I was getting really into the tarot aspects. Because if you haven't read that book series, tarot is a big part of, like, the background thing, like, predicting the future. And the main character lives in a house with other tarot readers and psychics and stuff. So that was a big thing. And because I was obsessed with that series, I thought it was my time to get that deck, because I also loved her art, and I still do. Maggie Stiefvater is, the art that she does is beautiful. So for those who haven't seen, this is the Raven's Prophecies Tarot. Let me try to fix this. I'm a noob, so I'm like trying to, there we go. This is the Raven's Prophecy Tarot. This is my first deck, and I edged mine in orange, but you can still tell that my deck is very disheveled, because when I got this deck, it was my first tarot deck for maybe the first, I want to say the first 2 to 3 years of reading. Like, this deck, when I got this deck, it was brand new. Like, it had just come out. I think I even pre-ordered it, maybe. And I'll actually flip through some of these as I talk a little more. But this was my first deck. And it's because, I was getting into tarot at the time. I was tired of just reading about the cards online. So I bought this deck. And this is my first. And wow, I need to figure out how to do this. Sorry, I'm like, this is the first time I'm doing this. So I'm like, I'm left-handed, by the way. So for me, like, my natural thing, you know what? Here we go. I'm going to fix this. My natural thing is to flip the other way. Right? Like, to flip and do kind of more that way, which I know is going to throw some people off. I'm sorry. Or maybe I'll do, like, up. I don't know. None of these ways feels right. But this deck is beautiful. And this deck is based on, that book series. Now, what's funny is I don't have that book series anymore. I actually got rid of it because, the way it ended, I just didn't care for it as much. But I still love this deck. This deck always calls out to me. It always reacts. I always have amazing readings from this deck. So it's just the best, honestly. And this was my first because of that. And so I guess question number 3 is, when did tarot become an important part of your practice? And when, if ever, did you stop being a skeptic? What was your moment of tarot conversion like? So for me, when around the time that I got this deck was around the time that tarot started to become more important to me. There was a period, like, when I got this deck, even though I did it in secret, by the way, so I did it in secret because I didn't know what my family would think about me reading tarot. So I kind of did everything behind closed doors. I would literally like close the door of my room when I was still living with them, and I would be doing readings with this deck. And because of that, it was still becoming a part of what was, I guess, becoming my practice, but I was doing a lot of it in secret. So it was around this time, though, that I stopped becoming a skeptic because I was doing tarot readings and they were becoming incredibly accurate. And I was surprised how accurate it was, like, oh no, how is it that these things are predictive? I mean, I know a lot of people on TarotTube, they don't like the word like predictive readings, as such. But at the time that I was starting, it was predicting a lot of things and helping me figure out a lot of things that I guess others would also call shadow work these days. Shadow work. And it was becoming very intense. But at the same time, it stopped making me a skeptic to tarot. I didn't really have a moment of conversion, but it was around that time that I realized, ooh, this is a big deal, and I'm gonna stick with it. And I did. Although, actually, I did have a period of about, I want to say it was about 2008, maybe late 2018, 2019. I actually stopped doing tarot for a while because I was starting to get very paranoid about the things I was like discovering in it. I guess it wasn't the right time for me to discover things. Ooh, this is actually relevant, right? Like looking into the mirror and having to discover what was on the other side for me. It was becoming a lot, and so I stopped. But that was also the time when it was becoming very real. So I don't know if that makes any sense. Sorry. I feel like I'm rambling. But that was a time where it was just becoming really real. And I just knew, right? I knew this was going to stay with me for a while. Even if I stop, which I did, like I said, I stopped. It was around 2019. I stopped reading as much. By then I had maybe, I think I had 3 decks. It was this one, and then 2 others that I don't have anymore because I got rid of them. They weren't working for me, so I got rid of them. And I stopped until about 2021, actually. Last year is when I started to pick it up again. But to go into question number 4, because again, I feel like I'm going on tangents and moving a little bit away. I'm sorry, that's how my brain works. Question number 4 says, when did you start reading for others or start to read for clients, and why? And if not, have you ever thought about it? Truth be told, as soon as I kind of was getting into tarot, as soon as I got this deck, I started reading for my friends at the time. Well, they still are my friends. Why am I saying at the time? But I started reading for them. Yeah, even with this crazy 3 of Swords. Look at this. This is so gnarly, but I love it. Also, I just realized like my camera it's my phone camera, and it's not really good at picking all this up. I don't know if it's because I need to like wipe the screen, but I'm not going to do that in the middle of this video. But anyway, sorry, that was me noticing something and then losing track. This is my autistic brain at work right here. When did I start reading? I started reading for my friends. And the funny thing was, though, at the time, they were new friends to me. So it wasn't like they were friends that I've known forever. And so I knew them very well, and had that bias. I didn't. They were new friends for me, and I was straight up with them. I told them, listen, I'm learning tarot, and I might have the guidebook next to me, but I'm also going to just tell you straight up what the cards mean based on the spreads that you want, and I'm not going to BS you. And I guess they appreciated that, and their readings ended up being, as a result, very accurate. Um, that so they said. Oops, sorry, I'm like accidentally hit my camera here. So they said, and since then, though, I haven't really read for anybody else because, well, one, the pandemic, right? It kind of puts a stopper on things, and also just because a lot of my tarot experience has been by myself. You know, I've been on my own, haven't had really anybody around, and I just don't read for others as much anymore. But yeah, I did read for my friends. I've been interested in doing maybe client work in more recent times, but I just don't know how I'm going to go about that. So at the moment, it's just for me. But it was for other people. I haven't actually read for my partner either. Kind of because he is more skeptical, you know, being still like being Catholic. Still a little more skeptical. And so I haven't read for him yet. But I feel like there will be a time when I do, because he already tries to like, sometimes I'll be shuffling, just sitting on the couch, and he'll try to take a card from me and be like, what does this mean? And I'm like, oh no, okay, that's not quite how it works, but that's okay, whatever. He's just being goofy. But with that said, going into the next question, what are some of your qualities from your background that make you a good reader? That is, what do you bring to the table as a reader, and what do you think your tarot superpower is? So this is an interesting question. I think what can make me a good reader is the fact that I'm really good at reading intuitively. Well, another fun fact about me, guys, is I'm a writer. So when I went to school and college, right, my degree is in English and in creative writing. So I spent those 4 years, especially, right, going into books, deep diving into old texts, studying newer things too, and even doing like writing workshops in both poetry and in fiction. And so I'm really good at picking up meanings of things, like, because that's what a lot of it was, is like you read a book, you pull out the bits that are relevant to what you're doing. And I'm able to do that with tarot too. So I think that's what makes me a good reader, is having that ability, is that I'm able to get to the root of what the card is trying to say, even when it's in a spread, right? Like understanding the meaning of what's going on in a moment. And I think that's what made the readings, you know, real for my friends as well. And with that, too, what do I think the superpower is? It might just be that, this is kind of hard. It might just be that I know, I don't know. I don't know. What is my tarot superpower? It might be that I can pick up a lot of decks and understand immediately what the creator was trying to do with it, even if it's like a pip style deck, which are not my favorite. I can still understand, like, oh, positioning this in this way is trying to evoke this and this thing, I guess. So maybe my intuition is my superpower, because I'm really good at like getting these like feelings for other things too. I'm not saying I'm like a I'm not saying I'm like a psychic or anything, because I don't know yet if I'm how I feel on that level, but I would say I definitely get premonitions for things. I've had a full-on deja vu and dreamt about things, so it might be related to that. It's just like my intuition might be high. If I was a D&D character, maybe my wisdom would be at like almost 20. No, that's too much. Maybe it'd be 18. Sorry, I am a D&D fan too, so I might sprinkle in some other nerdy references here and there. Sorry. So I think that might be it, my intuition. And being able to just understand, like even looking at this card, right, is like Seven of Wands. It's about trying to, protect yourself and your flames from being doused out by the rain, especially when a project is new and when other people are going to doubt you and what you're doing, right? Just pulling out that meaning from that. But finally, the last question, because I feel like I've been going on way too long of a tangent, and I'm going in loops because this is my first video and I don't quite know what I'm doing half the time, but that's okay. Question number 6 is, when did you get into TarotTube and what is your relationship with tarot and social media? So, to be completely honest, this is my first video for TarotTube, but I started watching TarotTube videos last year. So it would have been in 2021. I don't know why. I had pulled out more of my decks. Like I had decided to revisit this deck and some other decks that I still had at the time. And I thought, you know what? I'm really interested in doing more tarot work. Maybe I should get some new decks since I'm not happy with the 2 other that I passed out of my collection. Or, I don't know if I like the word collection. Took them out of my, stock? No, that's not a good word either. I don't know. I know there's a lot of, from watching a lot of tarot videos, I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about the word collection. So maybe not collection, but I took them out, put them away, moved them on. And so I started watching TarotTube videos to see just what else was out there, what's been around, what decks might be for me besides this deck, because my other motivation was that this deck, as you can tell, I'm probably never going to do that hashtag, to be honest, because this is my only deck like this. This is my most, you can't see my camera. Okay. This is my most disheveled deck, though. See, you can kind of see on the side here. This is not great quality. I'm sorry. But this deck was starting to get very disheveled. And that started making me paranoid. I wanted to remedy that by having more in my collection. So I started watching more TarotTube videos, started learning about, subscribing to popular channels, seeing what kind of decks were just out there. And now I decided, when was it now? It might have been, no, it was this month. I think it was the start of this month, or maybe it was the end of last month. Question mark? I'm not sure. I decided to make the leap into going on to Instagram. So I do have an Instagram for my tarot stuff. I might have to link it down below. I have an Instagram and I started posting pictures on there, but I still don't quite know what I'm doing. Even like with this, I don't know what I'm doing quite so much. But I decided to, bite the bullet, get a little camera stand. So that's what this is. It's for my camera. And try my best doing videos here. So I'm new to this and I'm apologize for the quality. It's also my lighting in here, to be honest. I'm in like a weird corner of my apartment where the sun doesn't really shine through very well. Maybe I can adjust it like this. It doesn't shine through very well, so it's not picking up the colors as much as I would like, unfortunately. So hopefully in future videos, I'll be able to remedy that. But for now, this is what you get. Sorry. And yeah, I plan to do more videos. But I hope I didn't ramble on too long on this one. That's my brief introduction to me. Hope it wasn't rambly. Next one will be an actual unboxing, so I shouldn't be able to ramble as much. And yeah, thank you for staying tuned. See you next time. Bye.